Last week saw the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The US President made a surprise visit to Ukraine's capital, whilst Putin, in his annual parliamentary address, spoke of Russia's success in the war. US President Joe Biden, sitting in Kiev, spoke of the heroic performance of the Ukrainians in the face of a brutal invasion by Russia. Biden said the Western world would always protect the freedom-loving people of Ukraine. Despite this, the US and the West have only been drip-feeding the Ukrainians despite protests from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for more weapons. It would seem the West only wants to fight Putin for the last Ukrainian soldier. The war has not turned out as Putin was expecting. He believed his forces could just walk into Kiev and unify Ukraine with Mother Russia. Russia's invasion shows, despite all the claims of the Ukrainian and Russia's being one people, the Kremlin has lost the hearts and minds of the people of Ukraine. After a year, Russia is hoping it will throw its new mobilized soldiers to turn the tide, whilst Ukraine hopes Western support will continue and allow it to regain its lost territories. Britain is facing shortages on multiple fresh food items, prompting the largest supermarkets such as Tesco, Asda and Morrisons to limit purchases of certain lines. Apples and pears could be the next food shortage in the UK after it emerged that British growers are planting just a third of the number of trees needed to maintain the orchards, saying their returns from selling to supermarkets are unsustainable. The shortages have been triggered by cold weather in Spain and North Africa, hitting crops there, and by big cutbacks by British and Dutch growers who plant seeds at this time of the year, as growers say supermarkets were not prepared to cover the increased cost of heating. Some importers say Brexit has also meant the UK is at the back of the queue behind the EU when competing to buy scarce fresh produce. This all comes as nearly 18% of UK adults said they had experienced shortages of essential food items in the past 2 weeks, according to the Office for National Statistics, up from 13% a year ago, as food importers say Britain's exit from the EU continues to mean higher costs and potential hold-ups because of extra bureaucracy. China's foreign ministry released a 12-point peace plan for the Russia-Ukraine war, which urged a ceasefire and peace talks as soon as possible and respect for sovereignty. The plan mainly rehashed China's old talking points about the war, but it was silent on the issue of territorial integrity, which makes it likely a non-starter for Ukraine. But the recent revelations about China's potential sale of kamikaze drones to Russia for use in Ukraine tarnished China's image as a mediator, as does China's continued close trade and diplomatic relationship with Russia. The plan's points about nuclear weapons and grain exports show that Beijing's stance towards Ukraine does differ from Russia's, but Beijing's strategic alignment remains with Moscow. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said Beijing doesn't have much credibility because it had not been able to condemn the illegal invasion of Ukraine. Whilst China wants to be seen as a global power, it has not presented any plans for global issues, and now that it's attempted to, no one is taking her seriously. Shamima Begum, the 23-year-old woman who British authorities knew was set up by Canadian intelligence, lost her appeal against losing British citizenship in a major ruling in the UK. This is despite the judges accepting that there were credible reports of her being groomed and sexually trafficked at the age of 15. In 2019, the then Home Secretary Sajid Javid stripped her of her British citizenship, preventing her coming home. The Special Immigrations Appeals Commission has ruled that the decision, taken after ministers received national security advice about Miss Begum's threat to the UK, had been lawful, even though her lawyers had presented strong arguments she was a victim. The UK authorities and governments refused to accept Begum is a victim of sex trafficking and was tricked into joining ISIS when she was a student in high school. In similar cases, such as 15-year-old Rhiannon Rudd, who was charged with terror offences but charges were eventually dropped as she was considered a victim of grooming. The ruling ensures that the sordid details about Begum's trafficking and intelligence involvement won't be revealed in trial. There remain many questions about Britain's nefarious relationship with the shady ISIS group. A trial being avoided protects the British government and authorities.